In the pitch-black night of Afghanistan's rugged mountains, a lone figure emerges from the shadows, her petite silhouette cutting through the rocky desert like a ghost defying fate. Her white skin gleams faintly under the moonlight, brown hair pulled into a tight bun, her sharp face etched with determination in those burning green eyes. Her slim, muscular build, toned from endless secret drills, carries an impossible burden. 2 burly Navy SEALs slung over her shoulders, their wounds seeping blood that trails into the sand with every staggering step. Her balanced bust rises and falls with labored breaths, a symbol of resilient feminine strength that refuses to break. This is Sophia Grant, an electronic warfare specialist, declared dead just 48 hours ago in a devastating explosion in the Korengal Valley. Back home in Texas, her mother, a retired nurse who once mended the broken bodies of World War veterans, clutches a condolence letter, her hands trembling as she arranges a funeral for the daughter she believes is lost forever. The base had already etched her name into memorial records, her comrades mourning a quiet hero they never fully saw. But how does a woman dismissed as too beautiful and fragile for the front lines survive the blast venture into enemy territory to rescue 2 SEALs, everyone else deemed unreachable, and return bearing a secret that could shatter the military's very foundation? In her mind flashes her father, a Gulf War veteran haunted by the regret of leaving teammates behind his lessons, fueling her unyielding will. And there, hidden beneath her torn uniform, an eagle tattoo on her back, whispers of silent power. Wings ready to soar against all odds. As she nears forward operating base, Eagle, a guard tower's spotlight, pierces the darkness locking onto her. Radios crackle in disbelief. It's Grant. She's alive, and she's carrying 2 SEALs. The impossible unfolds a beacon of courage that will redefine strength forever, deep within the jagged embrace of Afghanistan's Hindu Kush Mountains. Forward operating base, Eagle stands as a fragile outpost of order amid chaos. The air hangs heavy with the acrid tang of diesel from humming generators, punctuated by the distant crack of gunfire echoing off rocky cliffs, a constant reminder that peace is but a fleeting illusion. Soldiers move like shadows in the dim glow of floodlights, their days a relentless cycle of patrols, briefings, and watchful waiting, isolated from the world beyond these fortified walls. Here, in this unforgiving terrain, where dust storms whip through valleys and nights drop to bone-chilling cold life, teeters on the edge, bound by duty and the unspoken bonds of camaraderie. At the heart of this tense world is Sophia Grant, a 26-year-old white American woman whose presence defies the rugged stereotype of the battlefield, beautiful in a way that turns heads. Even in fatigues, her long brown hair is always pulled into a tight bun, framing a sharp face with determined green eyes that seem to pierce through the haze of war. Her slim, muscular build, honed from quiet determination rather than brute force, and balanced bust speak to a feminine resilience that blends grace with grit. As an electronic warfare specialist, Sophia spends her shifts hunched in the dimly lit communications bunker, her fingers dancing over keyboards as she hacks into Taliban signals using advanced AES encryption software. She's a wizard, with frequencies unraveling enemy chatter that could mean the difference between life and death for patrols out in the field. Her fluency in Pashto and expertise in drone interference have quietly averted disasters, more than once turning invisible threats into actionable intelligence. Yet for all her skill, Sophia is often invisible in the eyes of her comrades. They call her Angel Face, a nickname that lands like a gentle jab but stings with condescension, implying she's too delicate, too pretty for the grit of combat. In the male-dominated world of the base, her suggestions are met with polite nods or outright dismissal. Just last month, she applied for advanced tactical training, only to be rejected, with a curt explanation. "You're too weak for the field, Grant. Stick to your screens." The words echoed in her mind, reopening old wounds tied to her family's past. Her father, a Gulf War veteran, had carried the heavy burden of regret until his dying day, haunted by a mission where he left a wounded teammate behind under orders. "Never let the system silence your guts, Soph," he'd whispered from his hospital bed in Texas, his voice frail but fierce. Now with him gone, her mother, a retired nurse who once tended to the scars of World War II, Heroes, lives alone in their quiet hometown, sending letters filled with pride and quiet worry. "You're my anchor in this stormy world, dear. Stay safe." These roots ground Sophia, but they also fuel a quiet fire within. Her strengths shine in the shadows, rare talents like hacking drones, mid-flight to disrupt enemy surveillance skills she's sharpened in secret during sleepless nights. Under the cover of darkness, she pushes her body through grueling workouts, push-ups on the rocky ground, runs along the base perimeter building endurance that belies her slender frame. And there, etched on her back, is an eagle tattoo, its wings spread wide in silent defiance, a symbol of the resilience her father taught her. Eagles don't flock. They soar alone when needed. It's a reminder that true power often whispers, not roars. But the prejudices persist, chipping away at her resolve. In the briefing room, one sweltering afternoon, as Captain Harlan outlines a risky patrol into the Korengal Valley, Sophia spots a flaw in the communication plan, a vulnerability in the signal relays that could expose the team to ambushes. She raises her hand, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. "Sir, if we encrypt with AES 256 and rotate frequencies, we could avoid interception." The room falls quiet for a beat, then a lieutenant chuckles, leaning back in his chair. Angel Face has ideas again. "Cute. But let the big guns handle the field, sweetheart." Laughter ripples through the group faces, weathered by war turning away, as if her words were mere static. Sophia's cheeks burn, but she clutches the edge of the table, swallowing the hurt. It's not the first time. Suggestions from her bunker are often filed away, her name rarely mentioned in after-action reports. She's the one who decodes the whispers of war. Yet they see only the fragile exterior, not the steel beneath. In quieter moments, alone in her bunk, with the hum of radios fading into the night, Sophia traces the eagle on her back through her shirt, drawing strength from its silent promise. She thinks of her mother's letters tucked under her pillow, and her father's final words, "Regret is heavier than any load you'll carry." Here at Fob Eagle, amid the isolation and unspoken doubts, Sophia's ordinary world is one of quiet battles against enemies unseen and prejudices all too visible. Little does she know a signal flickering on her screen will soon shatter this fragile routine, calling her to a path where her true strength will be forged in fire. The flickering green glow of the monitors in the communications bunker cast long shadows across Sophia Grant's face, her green eyes narrowing as she fine-tuned the dials on her equipment. It was another endless shift at Forward Operating Base Eagle, the kind where the weight of isolation pressed in like the surrounding mountains. But today, amid the usual static hum of routine transmissions, something cut through the noise, a faint encrypted signal pulsing from the ether, irregular and insistent. Sophia's fingers paused, her heart quickening. This wasn't standard chatter. It was Taliban code layered with AES encryption she knew all too well from her late-night studies. As she decoded it, bit by bit, the fragments coalesced into a chilling picture, an ambush trap set in the treacherous Korengal Valley, precisely targeting SEAL Team Bravo's scheduled patrol at dusk. Coordinates matched phrases like infidel hunters and Valley of Death, painted a deadly setup, rocky choke points rigged with IEDs and sniper nests. If ignored, those elite warriors' men who'd become voices she recognized over the radio would walk straight into oblivion. Sophia's mind raced back to the briefing room earlier that day, where her warning about the comms vulnerability had been laughed off. Now this signal confirmed her fears, amplifying them into a dire reality. She cross-referenced the data on her hand-scribbled maps, her slim fingers tracing the valley's contours she'd memorized in secret. The threat was real. Imminent. Sunset was just hours away. But who would listen, gathering her notes, a meticulous breakdown of the encryption patterns and projected ambush sites? Sophia headed to the command tent. The air inside was thick with the scent of stale coffee and authority. Captain Harlan poring over maps with Major Ellis, the intelligence officer, at his side. "Sir." Sophia began, her voice cutting through the murmur. "I've intercepted an encrypted Taliban signal on a non-standard frequency. It's detailing an ambush in Korengal Valley right on Bravo's route. Here's the decode triangulated sources, coded phrases matching known insurgent tactics." Captain Harlan glanced up, his brow furrowing in mild irritation. "Grant your electronic warfare, not intel. Our analysts have cleared the sector." Major Ellis skimmed her notes with a dismissive nod. "If there was a real threat, our systems would have flagged it. Stick to jamming signals, angel face." The nickname hung in the air like a barrier, the room shifting uncomfortably as a few officers exchanged glances. Sophia felt the familiar sting, but she pressed on, her determined green eyes locking onto Harlan's. "With respect, sir, these are evading standard detection. I've tracked similar patterns for weeks. Bravo's lives are at stake." Harlan handed back her folder with a finality that brooked no argument. "We'll run it up the chain. Back to your post." Returning to the bunker, Sophia's pulse thrummed with urgency as the signals grew sharper, more coordinated, a ticking countdown to disaster. She stared at the screens, the decoded words blurring with memories of her father. In their Texas home by the flickering fireplace, he'd shared stories of the Gulf War, his voice thick with regret over a teammate abandoned in the chaos of retreat. "I vowed never to let that happen again, Soph." He'd said, his eyes distant. "But sometimes the system ties your hands." That vow echoed in her, now a sacred promise, not to abandon those in peril. And then there was her mother's letter, arrived just yesterday, its words a lifeline. "You are my strength, my dear girl. In a world that underestimates us, remember your wings." Sophia traced the eagle tattoo through her uniform, its silent strength urging her forward. The signal screamed of lives hanging in the balance, a call she couldn't ignore. Why had she honed these skills in the shadows? Why push against the prejudices that boxed her in? The answer crystallized in the static, because some battles demand you step beyond the lines drawn for you. As sunset loomed, Sophia knew this was her moment, the adventure that would test her soul, a path forged from whispers of war and whispers of the heart. Back in the dim confines of the communications bunker at Forward Operating Base, Eagle Sophia Grant slumped into her chair, the decrypted Taliban signal still glowing ominously on her screen. The words she'd uncovered, ambush, coordinates, coded threats, swirled in her mind like a gathering storm, a direct challenge to the dismissal she'd just faced in the command tent. Captain Harlan's words echoed, "Stick to jamming signals, angel face." It wasn't just a rebuke. It was a wall reinforcing the prejudices that had shadowed her every step at the base. Her heart pounded with a mix of fury and fear, the weight of the discovery pressing down like the Afghan mountains outside. What if she pushed further? Her career hard-won through years of proving herself in a world that saw only her beauty and fragility could crumble in an instant. Court-martial demotion, the end of everything she'd built. These thoughts clawed at her, whispering that perhaps the system knew best, that she was indeed too small for the chaos beyond the wires. Sophia stared at her reflection in the darkened monitor, her green eyes reflecting doubt. The nicknames, the laughs in the briefing room, they'd burrowed deep, making her question her place. Too weak. The rejection letter for tactical training had said words that now fused with her father's regrets, turning self-doubt into a heavy chain. Why risk it all for a team she barely knew? SEAL Team Bravo were legends, but she was just the bunker tech, the one who fixed signals, not the hero who charged into valleys. Almost accepting the system's verdict, she considered deleting her notes, letting the chain of command handle it, or mishandle it as they saw fit. It would be easier to fade back into the shadows, to be the quiet, angel face they expected, preserving her fragile foothold in this man's world. The doubt deepened as whispers from her teammates filtered through the bunker door. A group of soldiers lingered outside, their voices carrying on the dry wind. Heard Grant's at it again, playing spy with her fancy hacks. One laughed, mimicking her voice in exaggeration. "Sir, the signals say danger." Another chimed in. "Angel Face thinks she's Rambo. Cute, but she'll get someone killed overstepping like that." The mockery stung like sand in a wound, a reminder of how her ideas were often brushed aside, her expertise reduced to a punchline. Then came the warning from above. Major Ellis, pulling her aside later that afternoon, his tone paternal but stern. "Grant, I appreciate your initiative, but don't overstep authority. The intel chain exists for a reason. One wrong move, and it's your head." His words landed like an order, reinforcing the invisible barriers that kept her in her lane. Sophia nodded outwardly, but inside the conflict raged: obey and risk lives, or defy and risk everything. The prejudices, the warnings, they all conspired to pull her back, making surrender feel like the safe path, the one her father might have chosen to avoid his lifelong regret. In the quiet hours as sunset bled across the horizon, Sophia retreated to her bunk, the base's isolation amplifying her turmoil. She pulled out her mother's latest letter, the paper worn from travel, its familiar handwriting a tether to home. "My dear Sophia." It read, "In these uncertain times, remember you are my strength. Your father would be so proud of the woman you've become, quiet, but unbreakable, like the eagles he loved to watch soar over our Texas plains." Tears welled as she read on her mother's words, evoking images of their modest home. The fireplace where her father had shared his war stories, his voice breaking over the teammate left behind. "I should have fought harder," he'd confessed, the regret etching lines on his face that no time could erase. Sophia wept alone, the sobs muffled against her pillow, feeling the pull of surrender stronger than ever. Why carry this burden? The system had dismissed her. Perhaps it was right. She was too small, too fragile, just as they said. But as her fingers brushed the eagle tattoo on her back, its inked wings a permanent vow etched during a leave. After her father's funeral, a spark flickered. The eagle didn't ask permission to soar. It simply rose above the storms. Her mother's words echoed, "You are my strength." Wiping her tears, Sophia felt the inner storm shift, not to calm, but to resolve. The call was too loud to ignore, the lives too precious to abandon. Though doubt lingered like a shadow, the refusal was cracking, paving the way for a courage born from the deepest wounds. As the last rays of sunset faded over the jagged peaks surrounding Forward Operating Base, Eagle Sophia Grant lingered in the shadows of doubt, the Taliban signal's dire warning still echoing in her mind, like a distant thunder. The refusal to act gnawed at her the system's barriers and her teammates' mockery, weaving a web of hesitation. But in that fragile moment, the eagle tattoo on her back seemed to pulse with quiet insistence, urging her not to surrender. She needed guidance, someone who understood the weight of defying the odds. Slipping through the base's winding paths under the cover of emerging stars, Sophia made her way to the supply tent, a quiet corner where secrets were shared away from prying eyes. There, amid crates of rations and gear, stood Sergeant Elena Vasquez, a female Iraq veteran whose weathered presence commanded respect without a word. Elena was a force etched by time and trials in her mid-50s, with salt and pepper hair cropped short and eyes that held the wisdom of deserts, crossed, and battles survived. She'd served in the sands of Iraq, rising through ranks where women were rarities, her scars both visible and hidden a testament to resilience. Sophia had crossed paths with her during late-night shifts, drawn to Elena's quiet authority, like a moth to a flame. Tonight, as Sophia poured out her turmoil, the dismissed signal, the ambush threat, the inner storm of fear, Elena listened without interruption, her steady gaze an anchor in the chaos. "I've been where you are, kid," Elena said, her voice roughened by years, but laced with warmth. "In Iraq, they called me Desert Rose. Pretty name for a punchline. Told me I was too soft for the heat, too female for the fight. Applied for sniper training 3 times, got laughed out the door twice. But the third I pushed through, proved 'em wrong by outshooting the lot." As they sat on ammo crates, Elena shared her stories, weaving them with the threads of overcoming gender prejudices that mirrored Sophia's own struggles. "It's not about breaking the glass ceiling," she explained. "It's about shattering the illusions they build around us. I learned to read the terrain, not just maps, but the invisible ones, enemy movements in the dunes, weak points in patrols." She pulled out a worn notebook, sketching quick diagrams of Afghanistan's mountain terrain, the hidden goat paths in the Korengal Valley, dry riverbeds that could serve as covert routes. "Here, memorize these." Elena urged, her finger tracing lines that avoided standard military charts. "And you're hacking. Take it to the field. Use portable jammers to disrupt signals on the move, turn their tech against them. I've done it, spoofed enemy radios to buy time for extractions." Sophia absorbed it all, her green eyes widening as Elena demonstrated a quick hack on a spare device, simulating how to interfere with Taliban frequencies without detection. It was practical wisdom, born from real fire, empowering Sophia in ways the base's rigid training never had. But Elena's mentorship went beyond tactics. It touched the heart. In her steady demeanor and encouraging words, Sophia saw echoes of her own mother, the retired nurse back in Texas, whose letters spoke of quiet strength amid loss. "You remind me of her," Sophia confessed softly, her voice catching. "She always said we carry our power inside, not out." Elena smiled, placing a hand on Sophia's shoulder. "Strength is not in muscles, but in the heart, Mija. Your father taught you that with his regrets, don't let them become yours. I've lost friends to ambushes because no one listened. You hear the call? Answer it. The eagle on your back. It's not just ink, it's your wings." The words resonated, stirring memories of family evenings by the fire, her father's tales of Gulf War camaraderie, her mother's gentle hands healing veterans' wounds. Elena's encouragement bridged the gap, transforming doubt into a budding resolve, a reminder that true allies lift you when the world weighs you down. Yet Elena wasn't Sophia's only beacon. As their conversation wound down, a figure approached from the shadows, Petty Officer Marcus Kane, a friendly SEAL from Team Bravo, who'd overheard Sophia's warnings in passing briefings. Unlike the others, Marcus trusted her instincts. He'd seen her hacks save a patrol once before. "Heard you're onto something big," he whispered, glancing around. "If you're going after this, you'll need more than guts." He slipped her a folded map secret routes, scouted by SEALs, unmarked trails through the valley that evaded enemy eyes. "We don't leave our own behind," he said, his eyes meeting hers with genuine respect. "And neither should you. If anyone can pull this off, it's the one they underestimate." With Elena's wisdom and Marcus's alliance, Sophia felt the tides shift. The refusal that had gripped her was loosening, replaced by a network of support that honored her father's vow. As she stepped into the night, the stars above seemed a little brighter. The path ahead, though, perilous, a call she was now ready to heed. The night air at Forward Operating Base Eagle grew thick with resolve. As Sophia Grant stood in the dim light of her bunk, Elena's words and Marcus's map fueling the fire that her eagle tattoo had ignited. The Taliban signal's urgency pulsed in her veins like a second heartbeat, a call she could no longer refuse despite the storm of doubt that had nearly consumed her. Sergeant Vasquez's stories of shattering prejudices in Iraq and Petty Officer Kane's quiet trust had woven a safety net of support, reminding her that true strength bloomed in alliance. But now, as the base settled into its watchful slumber, Sophia faced the precipice alone. The system's dismissal, her teammates' mockery, they all paled against the lives at stake in the Korengal Valley. She knew what must be done, step beyond the wires into the unknown. Yet fate handed her an unexpected cloak. A routine radio transmission crackled through her earpiece, mentioning a casualty report from a recent explosion near the strange signal's origin. Her name was on it, Sophia Grant, killed in action. A mix-up, perhaps, from her proximity to the blast while scouting frequencies days ago. The condolence letter was en route to her mother in Texas, a heartbreaking lie that twisted her gut. Correct it, and questions would flood in orders to stand down. No, Sophia chose silence, embracing the death as freedom. It was her chance to act unbound, to honor her father's vow without the chains of protocol. With a deep breath, Sophia moved with purpose through the shadows, her slim frame gliding silently toward the supply depot. Elena's lessons fresh in her mind, she gathered gear like pieces of a puzzle forged in defiance. First, a portable hack radio modified with her own AES encryption tweaks to spoof enemy signals and maintain stealth comms. She tucked in medical supplies, trauma bandages, IV fluids, morphine syrettes, drawing from her mother's nursing tales of patching up veterans in quiet Texas wards. Every wound tells a story, her mother had said. Now Sophia would rewrite potential tragedies. For the physical burden ahead, she crafted a self-made harness from tactical straps and paracord designed to distribute weight across her muscular build, turning her fragile form into an asset. Marcus's secret map joined the kit, its unmarked trails a lifeline through the mountains. A compact GPS, loaded with Elena's terrain sketches, completed her arsenal tools, not just for survival, but for proving the prejudices wrong. Each item was a rebellion against Angel Face, a testament to the heart's unyielding power that Elena had evoked. As midnight cloaked the base in velvet darkness, Sophia approached the eastern checkpoint, her heart thundering beneath her balanced bust. Corporal Reyes, a lanky guard with a perpetual squint, manned the gate, his flashlight sweeping the perimeter. She steadied her voice, channeling the confidence Elena had instilled. "Evening, Reyes. Got a clearance for signal relay maintenance in Grid 4 Bravo. Comms are glitchy, can't risk Bravo's op tomorrow." She flashed a forged code on her tablet, a quick hack mimicking official protocols, laced with jargon about frequency alignments. Reyes eyed her pack, bulging with gear, not just tools. and hesitated the cold wind whistling through the wires. Kinda late for that, Grant. Sure it can't wait till dawn. Sophia's mind raced, but she kept her tone professional, drawing on her father's lessons of calm under fire. Negative. If we lose sync during the patrol, it'll be on us. Command's orders. He grunted, waving her through with a reluctant nod, unaware he'd just opened the door to forbidden ground. The gate clanked shut behind her like a final judgment, and Sophia stepped into the Afghan desert, a vast, unforgiving expanse where stars pierced the sky like distant hopes. Loneliness crashed over her immediately, the cold wind biting at her exposed skin, whipping dust that stung her green eyes. Her boots sank into the rocky sand, each step a battle against the terrain's grip, her pack digging into her shoulders. The base's lights faded to pinpricks, leaving her alone with the whispers of wind and the weight of her choice. Fear crept in. What if she failed? What if the prejudices were right? But as the chill seeped into her bones, thoughts of her father warmed her core. By the Texas fireplace, he'd recounted Gulf War nights, the regret of abandonment heavy in his voice. I left a man behind once, Soph. It haunts you forever. Promise me, never turn away when you can help. His words were her compass, now guiding her through the darkness. She traced the eagle tattoo through her jacket, its wings a silent promise of flight. Her mother, grieving a false death back home, would understand this sacrifice. Her letters had always spoken of inner fortitude. "You are my strength," they'd said. Sophia pressed on the cold Afghan wind, a harsh companion, but her steps grew surer, each one a threshold, crossed a transformation begun. The valley awaited lives hung in the balance, and Sophia Grant, once dismissed, now unbound, was ready to soar. The Afghan desert unfolded before Sophia Grant, like an endless shroud, its rocky expanse swallowing her footsteps as the cold wind howled a lonely lament. Mere hours into her unauthorized journey, the first test descended without mercy, a ferocious sandstorm brewing on the horizon, whipping grains of dust into a blinding vortex that erased the stars above. Sophia's slim frame bent against the gale, her brown hair escaping its bun in wild strands, her green eyes squinting through the haze. The terrain, unforgiving with its hidden crevices and shifting sands, threatened to disorient her completely. She stumbled, nearly losing her footing on a loose boulder, her self-hacked GPS flickering erratically in the storm's electromagnetic interference. Panic rose like bile had she been foolish to cross that threshold, to embrace her false death. For this, the pack on her back grew heavier, a reminder of the lives depending on her unproven resolve. In that moment of near despair, Sophia activated her portable hack radio, its signal cutting through the static like a lifeline. "Eagle's Nest. This is Vanguard," she whispered, using the call sign Elena had suggested for anonymity. Sergeant Vasquez's voice crackled back almost immediately, steady and reassuring amid the chaos. "Vanguard, read you? Storm's a beast. Use your GPS mods to recalibrate. Lock on the magnetic north variance I taught you. It'll cut through the interference." Elena's advice flowed like a mentor's embrace, drawing from her Iraq days, where she'd navigated similar tempests. "Breathe, Mija. Remember the eagle rides. The wind doesn't fight it." Sophia adjusted the device, her fingers nimble despite the cold, hacking a quick algorithm to filter the noise. The screen stabilized, revealing a faint path along a dry wadi, a hidden route from Marcus's map. Gratitude swelled in her chest. Elena wasn't just an ally, but a bridge to her mother's enduring spirit, turning isolation into shared strength. But the storm was only the prelude. As it began to ebb, leaving a gritty film on her skin, Sophia's radio picked up enemy chatter, Pashto voices sharp and alert from a Taliban patrol scouting nearby. Her heart slammed against her ribs. They were closer than anticipated, their footsteps crunching over the rocks. Enemies in the flesh, not just signals on a screen. Drawing on her expertise, Sophia jammed their communications with a burst from her hack radio, scrambling their frequencies into useless static. "What the signal's down?" One voice cursed before fading. She crouched behind an outcrop, her muscular build coiled like a spring escaping detection by mere seconds. The adrenaline surged a mini-climax that tested her mettle, proving her skills could bridge the gap from bunker to battlefield. As the patrol veered away, Sophia pressed on the encounter, a harsh lesson the desert held more than wind. It cradled dangers that demanded every ounce of her hidden power. Deeper into the night, as the moon cast eerie shadows over the rugged hills, Sophia closed in on the Korengal Valley's outskirts, her GPS guiding her to SEAL Team Bravo's last known position. The air grew thicker with tension, the cold seeping into her bones, but Elena's words echoed, strength in the heart. Then, in a narrow ravine scarred by past battles, she found the Master Chief Ryan Torres and Petty Officer Liam Hayes slumped against a boulder, their forms battered from the ambush she'd foreseen. Torres, broad and grizzled, clutched a chest wound, seeping blood, his breathing ragged. Hayes, younger but hardened, guarded him with a rifle. Shrapnel tearing his leg. Their eyes snapped to her approach, suspicion flaring. "Who the hell are you?" Hayes growled, weapon raised. Some kind of mirage angel face from comms. "This ain't no place for you." Sophia knelt, unfazed, her voice calm amid the storm of doubt. "Vanguard, I'm here to get you out." Initial suspicion hung heavy. Torres muttered, "Base thinks you're dead, and you show up alone, smells like a trap." But necessity bridged the gap. Drawing on skills learned from her mother's nursing days, Sophia assessed their wounds with steady hands. She cleaned Torres's gash with antiseptic, applying pressure bandages to stem the bleed, starting an IV with fluids from her pack. "My mom patched up a dobubo. Vets," she said softly, her green eyes meeting theirs. "Taught me every life is worth the fight." As she worked, she shared her father's Gulf War story, the regret of abandonment that haunted him, mirroring their plight. He'd say no one's left behind, not on my watch. The vulnerability cracked their armor. Hayes lowered his rifle. Torres nodding with grudging respect. Emotional threads wove trust, turning strangers into allies bound by shared humanity. The mini-climax struck without warning, a Taliban patrol's footsteps echoing down the ravine, drawn by the ambush's echoes. "They're coming back," Hayes whispered, pain etching his face. Sophia's hack radio buzzed with their chatter. She acted swiftly, overriding a nearby enemy drone, with her portable jammer diverting it to buzz harmlessly overhead as a decoy. "Fly low, you tin bird," she murmured, her fingers flying. The patrol hesitated, veering toward the false threat, buying precious time. Hayes stared in awe. "Damn angel face, you're no angel. You're a storm." Trust solidified in that heartbeat. The chase averted a testament to her ingenuity, forging bonds that would carry them forward through the trials ahead. As dawn's first light crept over the mountains, painting the rocks in faint gold, Sophia and her newfound allies pushed deeper into hostile territory, the weight of Torres and Hayes testing her every step. But a small twist unraveled in the quiet. Sophia's radio intercepted a fragmented signal, not from Taliban lines, but leaking from the base itself. Coordinates matching their position whispered in coded English. Suspicion bloomed a leak from the interior, perhaps a superior selling secrets. "This can't be," she murmured, her heart sinking. The group struggle intensified. Torres, still weak, opposed pressing on. "If the base is compromised, we're walking into suicide. Turn back, Grant." Hayes echoed the doubt, their initial suspicion resurfacing amid pain and fatigue. Your comm's not command. What if you're wrong? Sophia met their resistance with quiet determination, slinging Torres in her self-made harness, her slim muscles straining but holding as they navigated treacherous mountain terrain, steep inclines, and loose gravel that demanded grit. "Watch," she said, leading them through a hidden path from Marcus's map, her boots gripping where others slipped. Gradually, as she carried them over a precarious ridge, their opposition softened. "She's got eagle eyes," Hayes admitted, respect dawning. The education came in her detailed signal hacking using SIGINT software. On her device, she decoded the leak layer by layer, isolating frequencies, cross-referencing patterns with AIS keys. "See here," she explained, showing the screen. "It's internal chatter betraying our moves. Someone's playing both sides." The revelation fueled their resolve, turning internal enemies into a shared foe. Torres gripped her arm. "Lead on, Vanguard. You've earned it." Through the struggle, respect grew like dawn's light, transforming doubt into unity, a crucial step in the gauntlet of tests that forged Sophia's unyielding spirit. The first hints of dawn brushed the Afghan horizon in soft strokes of amber. But for Sophia Grant, the light brought no relief, only the stark outline of the Korengal Valley ahead, a notorious gauntlet of death carved into the mountains. With Master Chief Ryan Torres slung across her back in the makeshift harness, and Petty Officer Liam Hayes limping at her side, Sophia navigated the dangerous rocky terrain, each step a precarious dance on uneven ground. The valley's entrance loomed like a maw, its steep walls riddled with jagged outcrops and hidden drops that could swallow a person whole. Her slim muscles burned from the unrelenting load, Torres's weight a constant reminder of the lives entrusted to her. As they descended a narrow path etched by ancient floods, a loose rock gave way under her boot, sending her teetering toward an abyss, a yawning chasm that dropped into shadowed oblivion below. Sophia's heart lurched, her green eyes widening in terror as she grabbed a protruding root, her balanced bust heaving with the effort to steady herself. Hayes reached out, his wounded leg buckling, but together they pulled back from the edge, dust cascading into the void like a whispered warning. Fatigue clawed at Sophia, now deeper than the cold wind that sliced through her torn uniform. Hours of trekking had taken their toll. Her body, once honed in secret night drills, now screamed for rest. An old wound from training a twisted ankle from a base exercise dismissed as fragile by her superiors, flared up with vicious intensity, each throb an echo of the prejudices that had tried to hold her back. "Am I strong enough?" The inner voice taunted, a serpent of doubt coiling in her mind. The signal leak she'd uncovered earlier gnawed at her, too suspicion festering like an open sore. Who at the base could betray them? The weight wasn't just physical. It was the crushing burden of her false death, the knowledge that her mother grieved a lie back in Texas. Sophia paused in a shallow alcove, easing Torres down gently. His labored breaths a stark counterpoint to her racing thoughts. Hayes watched her concern etching his face. "You okay, Vanguard? This valley's eaten tougher than us." She nodded, but inside the struggle raged years of being underestimated. The system's rigid walls, her father's regrets, all converging into a question that threatened to paralyze. Was she truly the eagle, or just a fragile bird in a storm? Yet amid the barriers, a mystery deepened the shadows. Sophia's hack radio crackled to life, intercepting Taliban chatter as they skirted the valley's rim. Amid the Pashto commands, a voice stood out familiar, laced with an American accent, directing the insurgents with precise coordinates. It sounded eerily like an old superior from her early deployment, Captain Reeves, a man she'd once respected, but who had vanished under suspicious circumstances. "Flank the infidels at Grid Echo 7. The voice instructed, chilling in its clarity. Sophia's blood ran cold. Was this the source of the base leak? The betrayal hit like a gut punch, blurring the lines between external enemies and internal rot. Hayes caught her expression. "What is it?" she whispered, the suspicion the radio's glow illuminating her sharp face. The mystery fueled her fire, transforming doubt into determination. This wasn't just a rescue. It was uncovering a truth that could save more than 2 lives. As they pressed on the valley's harsh barriers, tested every fiber, but Sophia's heart forged in family legacy, and ally bonds refused to yield, drawing her closer to the heart of the darkness. The valley's grip tightened as midday sun baked the rocks, turning the terrain into a furnace of trials. Sophia Torres and Hayes inched forward, the barriers mounting like waves in a tempest. Fatigue had evolved into exhaustion, her old ankle wound, now a fiery protest, with every step forcing her to lean on Hayes for balance as she bore Torres's weight. The inner struggle peaked. "Am I strong enough?" A whisper that threatened to drown her resolve. But a mini-climax shattered the fragile calm. A sniper's shot cracked the air, ricocheting off a nearby stone, sending shards flying. "Down!" Hayes yelled, pulling her behind a boulder as another round whizzed past. Taliban scouts, alerted by the earlier patrol diversion, had zeroed in from a high ledge, their scopes glinting in the sun. Adrenaline surged, overriding pain. Sophia drew on self-taught sniper skills, honed in stolen base hours, with borrowed manuals inspired by Elena's Iraq tales of precision under fire. "Cover me," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos. Peering through her compact scope attachment, she used the mountain terrain for cover. Elena's lessons vivid. Read the rocks like a book. Wind shifts, elevation drops. She calculated the angle, factoring the valley's updrafts, her fingers adjusting for the old wound's tremor. A breath held, then released. The shot rang out, silencing the sniper with a precise counterattack. Hayes stared in awe as the threat fell silent. "Where'd you learn that?" Sophia met his eyes, green fire burning. "From those who believed when others didn't." The victory was bittersweet emotion flooding in as the adrenaline ebbed. In the brief respite, Sophia recalled a phone call from her mother weeks ago, the crackle of the line carrying tears. "Sophia, I worry every day. Come home safe, you're all I have left." Now with her, death. A cruel deception, she imagined her mother crying over the letter, alone in Texas, mending her own broken heart as she'd mended veterans' wounds. The thought boosted her motivation, a surge of love turning despair to fuel. "We keep going," she said, helping Hayes up. The tactical details ingrained, using the terrain's natural cover boulders for shields, ridges for vantage, taught perseverance under pressure, a life skill her father had embodied despite his regrets. As they neared the valley's core, the barriers had nearly broken her, but the emotional tether to home and the education in endurance propelled Sophia forward, ready for the ordeal that awaited in the inmost cave. The heart of the Korengal Valley pulsed with peril, its steep walls closing in like the jaws of a predator, as Sophia Grant and her wounded allies ventured into the inmost cave of their nightmare. The air thickened with the scent of gunpowder and fear, the sun, now a merciless blaze overhead. Suddenly, the major ambush erupted, Taliban fighters swarming from hidden crevices, their shouts echoing off the rocks as bullets zipped through the air like angry hornets. Master Chief Ryan Torres groaned, his chest wound reopening in the chaos, fresh blood staining Sophia's harness. Petty Officer Liam Hayes fired back sporadically, his shrapnel-torn leg giving way, forcing him to the ground. "They're everywhere," Hayes yelled, the encirclement complete, insurgents closing from all sides with ruthless precision. Sophia's green eyes darted her slim frame, shielding Torres as she dragged him toward a narrow ledge, the only escape a sheer cliff face, rising like a sentinel against the sky. Life and death hung in the balance, every second a razor edge. With no time to hesitate, Sophia hoisted Torres higher in her self-made harness, his weight crushing against her muscular build, her balanced bust rising with labored breaths. "Hold on!" she urged, her voice a thread of steel amid the gunfire. Hayes covered them as best he could, but the cliff demanded everything. Sophia's fingers gripped crumbling holds her boots, scraping for purchase on the treacherous ascent. Bullets pinged off the rocks below the Taliban, advancing their shadows, lengthening like doom. Midway up, fatigue and her flaring old wound conspired. A handhold gave way, sending her slipping toward the abyss, Torres's dead weight pulling her down. Her heart-hammered visions of failure flashing, the system's prejudices proven right, her father's regrets mirrored in her own. "Not now," she gasped, clinging by fingertips, the drop yawning below. In that suspended moment, she felt the eagle tattoo on her back burn like a brand. Its wings, a symbol of unyielding strength, whispering her mother's words. "You are unbreakable." Drawing from that inner fire, Sophia surged upward, muscles screaming but holding, pulling them inch by agonizing inch to a precarious ledge. Hayes followed, his face etched with pain and awe. The direct confrontation had tested her to the core, a baptism in fire, where survival hinged on the heart's defiant beat. As they caught their breath on the ledge, the radio in Sophia's pack crackled to life, the familiar voice from earlier transmissions, cutting through the static like a knife. "Seal the valley, infidels, at Echo 7. It commanded in clipped English, directing the Taliban with chilling accuracy. Sophia froze, the pieces falling into place amid the gunfire below. It wasn't Captain Reeves, her old superior, as she'd suspected, the timbre. The faint Texas drawl that belonged to her father's missing brother, Uncle Harlan, presumed dead in a Gulf War skirmish decades ago. The unexpected twist hit like a betrayal from the grave. Harlan, the uncle her father had mourned, the one whose sacrifice had fueled family legends, was alive and a traitor feeding intel to the enemy. Misdirection had clouded her mind. Previous suggestions of a base internal leak pointed to superiors, but this was family history, twisted into horror. Harlan radicalized or coerced, now the architect of their peril. Frustration boiled over a raw anger that would stir any heart witnessing such familial deceit. Sophia's world shattered. Her father had died carrying guilt over Gulf War losses, perhaps tied to Harlan's disappearance, and now this betrayal from blood, undermining the very values he'd instilled. How could he? She whispered, tears mixing with sweat, her green eyes flashing with pain. Hayes, overhearing the radio, gripped her arm. "Your uncle, that's hell." Torres, pale but alert, added hoarsely, "Explains the leaks. But why?" The revelation angered a punch to the gut for anyone who's known family bonds broken by war's shadows. It misdirected the audience's assumptions, shifting from institutional rot to personal tragedy, deepening the wound. Sophia clutched her eagle tattoo through her shirt, the symbol now a shield against this poison. Her mother's letters, speaking of family strength, felt tainted, yet they fueled her rage into resolve. The Taliban closed in below, but this twist transformed the ordeal, not just survival, but confronting a ghost from her past, proving loyalty where blood had failed. The frustration ignited a fire, turning despair into a weapon, as Sophia vowed silently, "I'll end this for Dad, for all of us." With the cliff ledge as their fragile sanctuary, Sophia proved her mettle in the ordeal's fiery crucible, the Taliban swarming below like vengeful spirits. Combat erupted anew, insurgents scaling the lower rocks, their rifles barking death. Hayes returned fire with his remaining ammo, but Torres fated his wounds critical. "We can't hold," Hayes shouted, desperation in his voice. Sophia, drawing on every scrap of ingenuity, spotted an approaching Taliban drone, its whir a harbinger of doom, scanning for their position. "Not today," she muttered, her fingers flying over her portable hack radio. Using military technique honed in secret, a self-made EMP pulse generator cobbled from base scraps and Elena's field hacks, she targeted the drone. The education in this desperate act, an EMP electromagnetic pulse, disrupts electronics by overwhelming circuits. With energy, a non-lethal takedown she'd simulated countless times. "Pulse ready," she said, syncing her device to the drone's frequency via SIGINT software, then unleashing the burst, a silent wave that fried its systems midair. The machine sputtered, crashing into the rocks below its wreckage, drawing enemy fire away. Seizing the distraction, Sophia grabbed Hayes' rifle, her self-taught sniper skills from earlier, now a lifeline. She shot down 2 advancing foes with precise bursts, the recoil jarring her wounded ankle, but steadying her resolve. "Cover Torres," she commanded, her voice echoing her father's unyielding spirit. The combat raged, bullets chipping stone around them, but Sophia's hacks and shots turned the tide, calling in a false rescue signal via the jammed drone's comms to confuse the Taliban. Hayes watched in disbelief. "You're a warrior, Grant." Proving her mettle wasn't just in the fight. It was in rising above the betrayal, her eagle tattoo, a beacon of inner power. As the enemies faltered, scattered by the chaos she'd wrought, Sophia stood tall, the ordeal's climax, forging her from doubt into legend, ready for the reward that awaited beyond the valley's grip. As the echoes of gunfire faded into the valley's depths, a fragile silence descended over the Korengal's scarred landscape, broken only by the ragged breaths of survival. Sophia Grant slumped against a boulder on the cliff's upper ledge, her slim frame trembling from the ordeal's toll, her green eyes scanning the horizon for lingering threats. The Taliban ambush had been shattered, drones crashed, enemies scattered thanks to her unyielding mettle. Master Chief Ryan Torres, his chest wound now stabilized by her makeshift care, stirred weakly, his grizzled face lifting to meet hers. "You did it, Grant," he rasped, his voice thick with gratitude and awe. Petty Officer Liam Hayes, propping himself up on his good leg, nodded, his eyes wide with newfound respect. "We were done for. But you're no angel face. You're an eagle warrior." The title landed like a medal born from the tattoo that had symbolized her strength through the chaos. They survived not just physically, but as a testament to her courage, the SEAL's elite pride yielding to honor a woman they'd once doubted. Hayes gripped her hand. "We owe you our lives. Whatever comes next, we're with you." In that moment, the prejudices that had haunted her dissolved, replaced by a bond forged in fire. A victory that whispered of true camaraderie, echoing her father's unfulfilled dreams. But the reward deepened beyond survival. It pierced the veil of betrayal that had twisted her world. Amid the wreckage of the downed drone, Sophia scavenged its data core, a black box of encrypted logs she hacked open with her portable device. There, amid the digital debris, lay the evidence communications linking her uncle Harlan to the Taliban network, timestamps aligning with Base Leak's audio snippets, confirming his defection after the Gulf War. It wasn't just personal horror, it was systemic rot. Harlan's intel had compromised operations for years, hidden under the guise of a heroic death. Sophia's heart ached, the family betrayal, a wound sharper than any bullet. But this discovery was her advantage, a key to change. "This ends it," she murmured, transmitting a secure burst to Elena back at base, the mentor's voice crackling in response. "Good work, Mija. We'll expose it, Cleanhouse." The evidence would shatter the old guard's complacency, forcing reforms, better integration of electronic warfare specialists, dismantling gender barriers that had sidelined talents like hers. No longer dismissed Sophia's actions, promised a ripple effect honoring her mother's quiet endurance and her father's regrets by reshaping the system that had failed them all. Victory wasn't just escape, it was transformation, a beacon for those underestimated, proving that one resolute heart could mend a fractured whole. The sweetest reward, however, bloomed in the quiet aftermath, a balm for the soul amid the valley's harsh beauty. As the sun climbed higher, casting golden light on their refuge, Sophia activated her hack radio for a final desperate link, patching through to a secure line back home, bypassing the base to reach her mother directly. The connection hissed to life, and there across oceans and lies came the voice that had always been her anchor. "Hello." Sophia's throat tightened, tears welling as she whispered, "Mom, it's me. Sophia, I'm alive." A gasp on the other end, then silence broken by sobs, her mother's raw and disbelieving. "My girl. But the letter, they said you were gone." The words tumbled out the mistaken death, the unauthorized mission the lives saved. Her mother, the retired nurse, whose hands had healed so many, wept tears of happiness, her voice trembling with joy. "Oh, Sophia, my strength, my eagle. I knew in my heart. I prayed every night." The conversation flowed like a river, long dammed stories of Texas sunsets, memories of her father's fireplace. Tales, the shared grief now eclipsed by miraculous reunion. "You made him proud," her mother said, the words a soothing embrace. "Coming home to you, that's all that matters." Sophia smiled through her exhaustion, the emotional satisfaction washing over her like warm rain healing wounds, deeper than any battlefield scar. In that connection, the ordeal's pain faded, replaced by love's enduring light, a sweet victory that reaffirmed no shadow could dim a heart that soared. As the trio awaited extraction signaled by Sophia's clever hacks, the reward solidified. Torres and Hayes saluted her as Eagle Warrior. Their respect, a crown earned through fire. The betrayal's evidence promised systemic change, a legacy beyond the valley. And in her mother's joyful tears, Sophia found the purest joy, a reminder that courage's true prize was the bonds it preserved. The ordeal had forged her anew, but this reward mended her soul, whispering that even in war's darkness, light prevailed. The sun dipped low over the Afghan peaks, casting long shadows that danced like weary ghosts across the valley floor, as Sophia Grant led her battered group toward the distant silhouette of forward operating Base Eagle. The ordeal's fire had forged them anew. Master Chief Ryan Torres stabilized, but weak leaned on her harness. Petty Officer Liam Hayes limped with grim determination. The evidence of betrayal clutched in her pack felt like a talisman, a hard-won prize from the inmost cave, promising change amid the chaos. Yet the road back was no gentle path. It twisted, with unexpected challenges, testing the resolve that had carried them through betrayal and battle. Sophia's slim frame ached her old wound, a persistent throb, but the sweet reward of her mother's voice still echoed in her heart. "My eagle come home." It fueled her steps, a beacon guiding them through the rugged terrain, where every rock held memories of peril. As they crested a final ridge, the base's lights twinkled like stars, fallen to earth, a promise of safety just kilometers away. But fate, ever the capricious ally, hurled one last hurdle, a low rumble growing into the thunderous chop of rotor blades. A Taliban helicopter emerged from the haze, its silhouette ominous against the fading sky spotlight, sweeping the ground like a predator's gaze. "Incoming!" Hayes shouted, his voice hoarse as they dove for cover behind a cluster of boulders. The chopper hovered, guns-trained insurgents aboard, scanning for the intruders who disrupted their ambush. Sophia's pulse raced. This was no random patrol. It was retaliation drawn by the drone crash's signal echoes. The small twist struck her radio intercepted their comms, revealing they were homing in on residual hacks from her EMP pulse. "They're using my own tech against us," she whispered, frustration mingling with fear. In that life-or-death pivot, Sophia's ingenuity shone. Drawing on Elena's field lessons and her self-taught hacks, she modified her portable device on the fly, reversing the EMP signature to create a feedback loop. "Hold tight," she told the SEALs, her fingers blurring over the controls. The hack surged through the airwaves, overwhelming the helicopter's electronics with a silent scream. Sparks flew from its console, the machine lurching erratically as systems fried. "It's working," Torres rasped, watching the chopper bank wildly retreating in a haze of smoke toward the mountains. The defeat was swift, a testament to her mettle, but it left Sophia breathless, the close call a reminder that victory's road was paved with unrelenting tests. Hayes clapped her shoulder. "Eagle Warrior strikes again." The encounter bolstered their bond, turning the journey back into a shared triumph, yet the emotional undercurrent tugged deeper thoughts of her father, whose Gulf War regrets had shaped her vow. Never leave them behind. Fulfilling it now, step by arduous step, brought a quiet peace amid the adrenaline. Nearing the base as dusk deepened, new challenges arose not from external foes, but from within the walls they sought. The gate loomed, but radios crackled with confusion as guards spotted their approach. "Unidentified group inbound, hold position," a voice barked. Sophia signaled their identity, but doubt flooded the airwaves. "Grant, she's listed KIA. This could be a trick." Old teammates, the ones who'd mocked her as Angel Face, gathered at the perimeter, their faces a mix of skepticism and alarm. Lieutenant Vance, the one who'd laughed off her briefings, stepped forward under the floodlights. "If that's really you, Grant, explain this madness. Unauthorized op dragging wounded SEALs like some rogue hero you'll face court-martial for overstepping." The accusation stung, a barrage of prejudices resurfacing, questioning her every choice. Sophia stood tall, Torres heavy on her back, her voice steady. "I had to. The ambush was real. The system's blind spots nearly killed them." But the doubts persisted, a wall of bureaucracy, threatening to undo her hard-won gains. In that crucible of confrontation, the SEALs defended her like kin. Hayes, despite his pain, stepped forward. "She saved us when no one else would. Hacked their drone, climbed that cliff under fire. She's the reason we're breathing." Torres added his gravelly weight. "Evidence in her pack proves internal leaks. Grant's no rogue. She's the hero you dismissed." Their words pierced the skepticism old teammates, shifting uncomfortably as the truth dawned. Vance hesitated, then nodded for medics. The defense turned the tide, a emotional vindication that echoed Sophia's inner fulfillment. As they crossed the threshold into the base, Sophia thought deeply of her father, his fireplace, stories, the vow she'd now honored. "I did it. Dad," she whispered to the night tears mingling with exhaustion. The road back had been fraught, but in fulfilling that promise, she found a profound peace, a bridge from regret to redemption, carrying her forward into the light of what lay ahead. The gates of forward operating Base Eagle swung open like reluctant arms, admitting Sophia Grant and her wounded companions into a whirlwind of confusion and scrutiny. Medics rushed forward under the harsh floodlight stretchers at the ready, as Torres and Hayes were whisked away for urgent care. Sophia stood amid the chaos, her slim frame caked in dust and blood, her green eyes weary but unbowed. The road back had tested her limits, but now within these walls, the true resurrection awaited a final confrontation with the shadows of betrayal and prejudice that had defined her journey. Whispers rippled through the gathering crowd. Grant alive with the SEALs. Old teammates clustered their faces, a mosaic of doubt and astonishment. Lieutenant Vance at the forearms crossed. "Explain yourself, specialist," he demanded, his voice laced with the old condescension. "Unauthorized absence defying orders. This reeks of insubordination." Sophia met his gaze steadily, the evidence from the drone corps heavy in her pack, like a key to forgotten truths. As Colonel Ellis approached, flanked by intelligence officers, she handed over the decrypted files. "The ambush was orchestrated with inside help," she said, her voice clear despite exhaustion. "Listen to this." She played the audio snippets, the familiar voice booming through a portable speaker, her Uncle Harlan's directing Taliban movements with cold precision. The final twist unfolded like a long-buried secret, exhumed Harlan. Her father's missing brother wasn't a Gulf War hero lost to the sands. He was a spy, defected, and alive, feeding secrets that had cost countless lives. Gasps echoed. Ellis's face paled. "This matches our leak patterns. But family." Sophia nodded, pain etching her sharp features. The revelation misdirected earlier suspicions from base superiors to a personal abyss, angering hearts with its intimate deceit. Her father had died haunted by Harlan's death. The family lore twisted into lies. Frustration surged. How could blood betray so deeply? Yet in that crucible, Sophia chose forgiveness. "He was broken by war," she said softly, her hand tracing the eagle tattoo through her uniform. "I won't carry hate like Dad did. Let justice heal, not vengeance." The act proved her inner strength, a quiet resurrection of the soul, transforming betrayal into a bridge of compassion that touched even the hardened officers around her. The system victory followed swiftly, a seismic shift born from her unyielding proof. Colonel Ellis, reviewing the evidence in a hastily convened debrief, nodded gravely. "Grant, your actions exposed a threat we missed and saved lives. Effective immediately, you're promoted to sergeant. More than that, we're revising protocols. Electronic warfare specialists like you will integrate into field ops, no more sidelining based on gender or appearance." The announcement rippled outward, changing regulations that had long boxed in talents like hers. No longer angel face. Sophia became a catalyst, her promotion a symbol of equity forged in fire. Elena Vasquez, standing in the shadows, smiled with pride. "You shattered the ceiling, mija." The victory wasn't just personal. It honored her mother's enduring faith and her father's unfinished vow, proving that one voice could echo through halls of power, reshaping a system blind to hidden strengths. The explosion of change came in waves, old prejudices crumbling like valley rocks underfoot. As word spread through the base, teammates who'd once mocked her approached, faces humbled. Lieutenant Vance, the chief doubter, stepped forward, first his voice low. "Grant, Sergeant." "I was wrong. Laughed off your warnings, called you fragile. But you carried those SEALs through hell. Forgive an old fool." Others followed a chorus of apologies. "We didn't see you," one said. "You proved us all," another added. The base culture shifted palpably. Briefings now included diverse voices. Angel Face retired like a relic. Torres and Hayes from their medical base sent word, "Eagle Warrior changed us." In this resurrection, Sophia rose not just from false death, but from the grave of underestimation, her inner light illuminating a path for others. As she stood under the stars, thinking of her father's gentle smile, she felt whole forgiveness, her armor victory, her wings a beacon for any soul deemed too small to soar. As the dust settled over forward operating base, Eagle, Sophia Grant stood amid the quiet hum of a base, forever changed her promotion stripes, gleaming like stars earned through the darkest night. The resurrection from doubt and betrayal had not only saved lives, but ignited a legacy that rippled far beyond the Afghan mountains. With military recognition came her new role, leading a specialized unit in electronic warfare and strategic support, a beacon for overlooked talents. Here, Sophia taught the younger generation not just the intricacies of signal hacking, decoding encrypted frequencies under fire, or reading rocky terrain like an open book, spotting hidden paths where others saw only peril. She wove in life lessons drawn from her own scars, perseverance under the crushing pressure of war, overcoming the deep ache of family loss, and affirming self-worth in a world quick to dismiss. "Turn your wounds into wings," she'd say, echoing the eagle tattoo that had carried her through. This vibrant legacy transformed old pains into sources of strength, proving that at any age anyone could spark change. It educated the community on the resilient American spirit, the kind her father embodied in his Gulf War tales, her mother nurtured in quiet Texas. Healing that endures, adapts, and soars, a timeless truth for those who've seen life's seasons turn. Sophia's story quietly reminds that true strength lies in the heart and resilience not size or gender, a truth that becomes clearer in life's later years, when experience and endurance become the strongest weapons. It helps overcome prejudices and past shadows, like eagle wings, spreading across the Afghan sky, carrying hope for those once forgotten. The prejudices that once boxed her in as angel face now lay shattered her actions, a testament to the power of quiet defiance. In leading her unit, she ensured no voice went unheard, no skill sidelined, fostering a culture where diversity wasn't just policy, but practice. The base buzzed with new energy briefings, inclusive trainings, rigorous, yet empowering, a direct echo of her journey from the bunker shadows to the forefront of change. Her uncle's betrayal, once a gaping wound, became a cautionary chapter, teaching forgiveness as the ultimate armor. "Hate chains you," she'd share with recruits, her green eyes reflecting hard-won wisdom. "Let go and fly free." This elixir she returned with wasn't glory, but a profound healing for herself, her comrades, and the system that had faltered. It honored her mother's tears of joy, her father's unkept vow, now fulfilled, weaving personal triumph into a broader tapestry of American grit, where every underdog could rise. In those peaceful moments, after the storm, reflecting on Sophia's journey, one can't help but ponder that stories like this always gently remind us, no matter how many seasons life has passed, we can still soar like an eagle, overcoming past shadows to make a difference, touching each heart lightly, and then hoping that somewhere it ignites a similar flame in your soul, a serene lingering on the delayed power of humanity. It's a call to embrace our own hidden strengths, to challenge the doubts that age or circumstance might impose, and to believe that resilience blooms brightest in twilight years. Sophia's tale isn't just a war story, it's a mirror for us all, reflecting the enduring spirit that turns trials into triumphs, prejudices into progress. If Sophia's journey sparks a bit of inspiration in you, like to support, share with friends, to spread comment, sharing a moment you overcame prejudice in life, and subscribe to the channel to explore more American hero stories. Together, we're building a stronger community where each share is a step to soar high.